You say when there's a will, there's a way, but when you can't see a path, you stop dreaming of the destination. Again, how do we illuminate the path for those that may not be able to see it, or even just for ourselves?
I think the mistake that a lot of us make, and we do this in mentoring all the time, is we want to give people directions.
Mm,
The problem is they're not starting from the same place as us. And so what was a great path for me might be a wrong turn for you. And I think the best thing we can do is to say, here's what worked for me. How do you think this applies to you?
mm,
And let people know that, that they're going to have to come up with their own directions. That as a mentor, what I can do is I can probably give a compass and tell you if you're on a productive path or not. But I won't know every landmark. I won't know every turn. I won't know when it's time for you to actually backtrack and find a different route. And I think showing that humility is really important.
mm,
The research on this suggests that some of the best doers are actually the worst teachers
mm.
because they're so far from where you are that they don't even remember what it's like to be in your shoes. And sometimes, they have tacit knowledge that they don't even realize that they have, and they don't know how to explain it or unpack it for you. So it's often said that those who can't, well, sorry, the saying is that those who can't do teach. I think what the evidence suggests is actually that those who can do can't teach the basics.
Mm,
So I would say the person you want to go to is often somebody who's 2 or 3 steps ahead of you,
yeah.
not light years ahead of you, because they can remember where you are, they can relate to you, they know what it's like to struggle in your position, and I think that's a great starting point. Now, you also asked about how we illuminate the path for ourselves, didn't you?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, Sarah, what greater thing are you trying to achieve?
Well, it's interesting. I was just thinking that when you were talking, I was going to ask you the question about your path. I Well, and also when I was reading this in the book and your book, and I started writing the questions, I started reflecting on my own life, and I always that path was in my mind, always illuminated for me. Like I didn't know exactly where I was going to end up, and I'm still very much on the journey. But when I reflect on it, I just had this light in me that knew that they wanted to work in a certain area. I knew, well, with age, I kind of knew the skills that I became really good at and what I enjoyed. And I just kind of kept following that and following that and following that. And it worked in my favor. And really, like, I still like shock myself on how, like, wow, that kind of when I was 4 and I was watching The Wizard of Oz and dreaming about working in entertainment, and I didn't think I'd interview people or do the other things that I do, or speak to big groups of people and talk about greatness. But I had the seed there. I love the world of entertainment, so. Yeah, I see people in front of me now that are doing great things. I mean, you're one of them. We do different stuff, but what you've done in your life is exceptional, and it's very inspiring. And so, yes, it allows me to see, oh, that can be done, and that can be done because, like we said, that the path is there because I'm watching other people do slightly different things, but on a similar journey, I suppose.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. It's a lot of pressure. Gonna have to try to live up to that in the future. But I think you're hitting on something really important that I didn't spend enough time on in Hidden Potential, which is psychologists find that when you just ask kids, and I think this is true for adults too, if you ask them what their dreams are, they end up aiming lower than if you
Mm.
have them come up with some role models first.
Yes.
And when you see a specific example, all of a sudden it raises your expectations of what's possible. I think if we're not careful, though, those role models can also be demoralizing and just a little bit too daunting.
Mm.
They seem out of reach in so many cases. The people I look up to, I'm never going to be in their league. I think what we need to do is we need to rewind the clock and look at what our role models did when they were at our stage or our age. And ideally, we have a bunch of those. And as you see multiple role models, you realize how nonlinear the path is,
Mm.
how many different routes there are to the same destination. And there's a term for that in systems dynamics. It's called equifinality, which is one of my favorite terms. And it's a really simple idea with a complex word behind it, which is there are always, in any complex systems, multiple routes to the same end.
Yes.
And I think it's so important to remind that, because we get advice all the time that says, if you want to achieve X, you must do Y and Z. No, that's always false. There is never a you have to do the following in order to get where you want to go. And the person who's telling you that is probably anchored too narrowly on their own experience or just a couple
Mm.
of examples.